From the pages of my daily news commentary site, MikeHuckabee.com, comes a political mess akin to a Looney Tunes cartoon. President Trump made an offer to end the border security stalemate and the government shutdown. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats would receive a 3-year extension of deportation protection for all of the DACA recipients, plus $800 million in urgent humanitarian assistance and $805 million in new drug detection technology. In exchange for the $5.7 billion, which, by the way, that's less than the shutdown has already cost, and that money would go for a strategic deployment of physical barriers. Now, the deal was so generous that some Republicans balked at it. Yet Speaker Pelosi rejected it before it was even made. She's proving why the Democrats picked donkey as their symbol. A creature famous for being incredibly stubborn and immovable. Why, even that bastion of conservatism, the Washington Post urged Pelosi in an editorial to take Trump's offer. Well, if I may offer an explanation as to why she declined, I think the problem is that Trump has driven his opponents daffy. And I mean literally Daffy. Remember the old Looney Tunes cartoons where Bugs Bunny would argue with Daffy Duck about whether it was duck season or rabbit hunting season? And the wily Bugs would get Daffy so riled up and confused that eventually he would not only insist that it was duck season, he would demand that Elmer Fudd shoot him. Well, that's kind of where the Democratic leadership is right now. Trump knows they have discombobulated themselves with anti-Trump resistance, rhetoric, and kowtowing to the Trump is Hitler far-left nut brigade. So much so that he can offer them a deal that's filled with things they previously supported, and they will furiously reject it out of force of habit. What they've done is paint themselves into a corner, and Trump is now playing them like Bugs played Daffy. And here's an amazing fact. A new NPR PBS NewsHour Morris poll found that Trump's job approval rating among Hispanics has risen by a shocking 19 points to 50% since the wall standoff began in December. Well, this is only a surprise if you think Hispanics don't notice that Trump has ushered in the lowest Hispanic unemployment rate in all of history, or that Hispanics all approve of unfettered illegal immigration, even though illegal immigrants compete and they drive down the wages of the jobs that many legal Hispanics who are immigrants already do. Well, I think it's possible that Trump made that incredibly conciliatory offer because he knew his opponents would be too stubborn, stupid, and locked into the habit of blind partisan opposition to take it, thereby alienating many of their key supporters, including government workers, Hispanics, and of course the media. If they take Trump's deal, he gets his wall funding. If they don't, then anyone who continues to argue that the government shutdown is the fault of anyone other than the Democrats will look as ridiculous as Daffy Duck. And that's a fact. Now, let's consider what's in the news that has caught your interest. We get wonderful reaction from audience viewers from all over the country. This is from Marissa in Rhode Island. She writes this. She says, "We celebrated Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday on January 21st. What do you believe his biggest accomplishment was that still resonates in today's divisive climate?" Well, Marissa, I think he left many legacies. And one of the things that I did when I was a student in grad school was to spend hours and hours listening to his sermons. And they were on audio tape. I still to this day, I know everybody says his greatest speech was "I Have a Dream." If you've never heard the last speech he made on April the 3rd, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee, called "The Drum Major Instinct," I urge you to listen to it. One of the most powerful oratorical addresses I've ever heard. Here's what I believe his greatest legacy was. It wasn't just to tell us that racism is wrong. It was to tell us that love is right. It was to tell us that you don't answer the hostilities of somebody who hates you by hitting them or hurting them or engaging in violence. That you respond by loving them and by nonviolence. And that's kind of hard to believe. And boy, do we ever need that message again today. But what a great message it was, is, and will forever be. And it was based on his belief in the Christian scriptures. So we also got this from Sharon in Michigan. Actress Alyssa Milano created a social media storm this week when she tweeted, and I quote, The red MAGA hat is the new white hood, end quote. Now, Sharon goes on to ask, as someone who voted for Trump and works and worships side by side with people of many ethnic backgrounds, I take offense at this statement. Why is she attacking everyone as racist with this statement? Well, Sharon, I think the answer is some people live in a little bubble, and most of the people in Hollywood do. And it's tragic to me that they don't know who we are. Many of us who live in parts of Middle America, we go to churches that are colorblind. There are people of every kind of color and ethnic diversity who are a part of that church. We have friends, we have relatives, we have people all around us, and we don't see it in terms of color, though they may think we do. And the fact is, what happened to those young boys in Covington, Kentucky, it's just one of the most despicable things I've ever seen in my life. And when some of the celebrities, including people like Alyssa Milano, wished harm upon kids, here's what I hope: that some really, really good and smart lawyers will sue the ever-loving britches off of some of these people for defamation of these kids' character. Now, this one comes from Terry in North Carolina. He's concerned about the rise of socialism in America, and he writes, according to a Gallup poll last August, 18 to 29-year-old people like socialism over capitalism, 51% to 45%. And 57% of Democrats now say they hold a positive view of socialism, compared to 47% for capitalism. You know, they used to call socialism communism without guns. So what's the reason for this alarming trend, asked Terry. I think the answer is fairly simple, is that a lot of people are too young to remember what socialism, communism, and all of the isms really did. Millions of people were murdered because of it. It did not bring the level of life up. If you ever saw life in the Soviet Union or Eastern Europe during the time when socialism was the economic standard, you know that those people lived in the depravity of things that we had plenty of in America. People in poverty in America had more than people who were so-called middle class in many of those nations under socialism. Look no further than to Venezuela, just south of us. Here was a nation that had all the great oil resources, had so much prosperity, until they decided to become socialist. And now, people are starving. Their currency is worth nothing. And those are people who can't even line up and find a roll of toilet paper. When they sing, "When the Roll is Called Up Yonder," they're singing it for an entirely different reason than most of us ever would. Well, that's all the time we've got for your questions and comments. I hope you'll write me with yours. You can email me at my2cents@tbn.tv. That's my2cents@tbn.tv. Share what's on your mind, and hopefully we'll talk it over on this segment. And until next time, that's all, folks, for Facts of the Matter.